Broadcasting worldwide to make a difference. This is Positive Impact Radio.
Have you ever thought if it's possible to communicate with the other side? Or have you gotten a message and wondered if it's coming from somebody who's passed on? We're going to try and answer some of those questions today. We're talking to Linda West and Jolene Paterson. They are known as the Psychic Sisters and known for their ability to connect with people and friends, loved ones who have passed on to the other side. Hi, ladies. How are you?
Hi.
Oh, we're good.
Great to have you with us today. If you want to check them out, it's the psychicsisters.us. So you guys are both clairvoyants. Linda, what exactly, I've heard the term before, what exactly is a clairvoyant?
A clairvoyant is someone who is able to see the possibilities of the future. The way that I like to describe it is the ordinary person is going down a river in a canoe, and they come to a fork, and if they take the right fork, they're going to go over the waterfall. If they take the left fork, they're going to end up in I don't know, Minnesota. And the clairvoyant or psychic is in a helicopter, and they're able to see that there are two paths and what the possibilities are for both.
Interesting.
So when you talk about clairvoyance, when you talk about clairvoyancy, if you go to a psychic, first of all, everybody has free will. So a psychic or a clairvoyant may tell you certain things, but they're not set in stone. Because again, there are always other paths. I believe that psychics and clairvoyants see the possibilities depending on the choices that you make.
And is it ever turned off? I mean, if you're somebody who is a true clairvoyant, is it on sometimes, off sometimes, or are you just that kind of person that can fly above sort of the bleachers, so to speak, and look down and see ahead?
I think that it depends on the individual. For me, I tend to turn it off because I don't want to be bombarded by images and thoughts that I know aren't mine. If I'm, walking around in a mall, I don't want to do that. So I tend to turn it off. That's not to say that things don't come to me spontaneously. I have no control over that. But yeah, I do turn it off.
Linda and I have an agreement with our spirit guides that when we're not working, please shut us down, because it would be very difficult to walk around open all the time. But like Linda said, there are times when we'll be sitting together somewhere and maybe a waitress will come over to take our order, and we both look at each other and go, oh, okay. But we always ask if we can give a message. We don't just give messages without asking, because we don't feel it's personal, but we don't feel that it's right to step into somebody else's energy field without asking them first.
That's got to be a little uncomfortable, Jolene. Like if you're out somewhere and you're getting a message from Uncle Vinny, for somebody, and then you have to decide at that moment, do I deliver?
I always ask.
Well, again, it's a choice. It's a choice that we make. And our choice is to ask the individual, because not everybody is open to receiving messages, and to invade their space, in our opinion, is not okay. So we always
that's
ask
how we
permission.
feel. Yeah, we always ask permission. If I am sitting with a bunch of friends and I get somebody's Uncle Vinny coming through, I'll always say, hey, I have your Uncle Vinny coming through. Do you want to hear something? And my friends all know me, so they always say, of course. But a stranger, I will ask.
While we're talking about strange
Absolutely.
things, can I ask you guys, what is the strangest thing that has ever come through during a reading? Maybe it was an
We
item.
have a couple of them.
Yeah, what do you got?
I don't know. Let's see. There was a time several years ago where we were doing a reading, an event in California, and Marilyn Monroe came through, and that was really shocking to us.
Yes, the lady we were reading had worked with Marilyn Monroe.
And it can
That
be
was
as
crazy.
simple as it can be as simple as I don't know. 2 weeks ago, somebody's ferret came through. So
That's right.
it could be really It could be, one end of the spectrum to the other.
We were once clearing a house for somebody. They called us. They were having a lot of activity in their house, and they wanted their house cleansed. Linda and I went there, and as we pulled up, Linda said, "I hear ducks. Do you hear ducks?" "I hear ducks quacking." Turned out, many, many years ago, it had been a duck farm.
Wow. That's bizarre.
So actually, anything can transpire.
Now, when you cleanse a house,
Sometimes the strangest things.
do you use sage? I've always heard that that's used to cleanse spirits. Am I on the right path when I say that, sage?
Yes, white sage.
Yes, you are.
I clear my house all the time. Linda does the same with white sage because it does clear out, and you ask negative energy to leave. You open a front door, you open a back door, you clear the house. It works. It works a lot.
But it doesn't just have to be negative energy. It can be any residual energy. You have an argument with your son or your husband, and there is an energetic vibration that remains as a result of that. So it's not like it's a negative spirit that's hanging around. It could just be as simple as just an energetic vibration that's still there.
I have a hard enough time cleaning my house, clearing it. I'll put it on the list, though. See if we get that done.
It's one more thing on the to-do list.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. It's on the list of things that have to be done on a weekly basis.
Ooh, okay. I didn't know that. Is it seriously? Should you cleanse your house with sage on a weekly basis? Is that too much?
I do it. I personally do it on a weekly basis because I see clients in my home, and you never know what anybody is bringing with them. So I always do it once a week.
Interesting. It's almost like when you have company come over, you vacuum the rugs before, and then you vacuum the rugs after they leave, right?
Vacuum them after.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's another thing too. Like when you have a lot of family over, sometimes you need to cleanse after they leave.
Yeah, well, everybody's got family issues. I totally agree with that.
Oh, please. There's not one family that doesn't have something.
Oh, yeah. If somebody says, "Oh, my family's perfect, we don't have any issue," they're lying. They're absolutely not telling the truth.
They're lying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk about symbolism. Is there things that people can see that symbolize a message from somebody on the other side? Like I've always heard butterflies. That means something. But then I guess it could be very specific to everybody and the person that's passed.
I think that it really, again, it depends on the individual. Anything that you get or see repetitively is usually a sign from spirit.
And your phone's ringing, so maybe you're getting a call from spirit?
I hope not. No. So what I was saying is that it depends on the individual, and again, it's usually what you associate with the sign. For instance, after my dad passed, the next day I went out on my front stoop, and there was a bunch of white feathers there, and it looked like a bird had exploded, but there was no carcass. So I took it to mean that he arrived safely. He's with the angels. And the day after my mom died, I had the same experience. I went out onto my back deck, and there was this, plethora of white feathers, no carcass. So I really think that was their sign to me that they arrived safely. Okay?
Wow.
And I have not gotten white feathers ever since, and that was 11 years ago.
And that was right after they passed.
Yeah, it was right after they passed, day after. So I think it really depends on what you associate with the individual.
A lot of people say, "Oh, I see cardinals all the time." I feel that cardinals, birds are always messengers. So I believe that when you have cardinals, blue jays, whatever you have, those type of birds, that is coming from heaven. They are messages from heaven. Linda and I get dimes. We get dimes in all kinds of very strange places. And we know it's from our dad because there's a story in our family about dimes. So we know what that means to us. And when I get a dime, usually she finds a dime. And it's not like we're, emptying our cookie jar to get a dime. We find them in strange places. So we know that that's a sign from our dad.
And signs can be music also.
Yes.
I'll share this with you. A couple of days ago, I was in the grocery store in the produce department. It was very early in the morning. It was just me and some guy putting corn on the shelf, and I had been kind of frustrated because it's a little bit fresh because I haven't heard from my dad in a while. So I'm looking in the produce department, and all of a sudden, this guy starts singing in Spanish, "Bésame mucho." Now, that may not mean anything to anyone else, but to me, it's very important because my father was Spanish, and that was a song that I sang to him up until the day he died. So
Wow.
I knew at that moment that my dad was in that produce department with me.
And how random that guy started singing that song in Spanish.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm a firm
So
believer.
random.
Things do happen for a reason. There's got to be a reason that happened.
Oh, sure.
Oh, absolutely. We were in California a few years ago, and we were in a mall, and we were in a little store that sold like earrings. They were going out of business, so I was buying earrings, $5 earrings or whatever. And all of a sudden, the music changed, and the song Jolene came on. Okay, that's a little weird. And I said to Linda, listen, and it was the song Jolene by Dolly Parton. So when I went to check out, I said to the young girl behind the counter, this is a random song to be playing. And she listened, she goes, well, it's very strange because this is my iPod and that song's not on it.
Wow.
And I said to her, that's okay. I said, it's for me. She goes, for you? I said, I'm Jolene. And she went, oh my goodness, you're kidding. I said, no. So I know my parents were with us.
Yep, totally.
So things like that can be symbols. That can that can be a sign that they're with you. And again, nobody can tell you what your sign is. That's for you to figure out. But it's usually a repetitive thing.
And I would assume that you have to be open to accepting it.
Absolutely.
I think your openness comes in the fact that you recognize it. Because you get signs whether you accept them or not. But a lot of people just don't recognize that is happening.
We're talking to Linda West and Jolene Paterson.
Open.
We're talking to Linda West and Jolene Paterson. They are the Psychic Sisters. You can check them out at thepsychicsisters.us. So while we're talking about getting signs from the other side, I want to get your take on this. Do you think that one day we will be reunited with people who have passed on? Do you think that people will get reconnected at some point?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that you're still connected. Let me put it that way to you.
Yeah, I don't think that the connection has stopped.
No, I don't think the connection really ends. I mean, we're talking about it on a soul level, and it's our experience that the other side is right here, that your loved ones who have passed into spirit are still around you. They still see what goes on in your life. Sometimes even in a reading, they'll even talk about something that's going on in your life. So they don't really leave you. When you're thinking about somebody who's passed over, it's because they're with you. So are you going to be reconnected? Well, you are still connected, but again, some people just don't recognize that you're connected. And the other thing is that we're very busy in our life. Generally speaking, people are doing 10 things at once. We multitask, and it's pretty stressful to do that. So we're distracted. We're not aware of that flash of movement that you catch at the corner of your eye, or you're not aware of the scent of lilacs or perfume that all of a sudden you smell because you're busy. It's when you get very quiet, whether you pray, meditate, or just before you go to sleep at night. That's when you're most open to receiving those kinds of signals that your loved ones are around.
You mentioned go to sleep at night. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And a lot of people just kind of fluff them off. They'll say, oh, that was strange, but then they won't really get or understand that what they're really getting is what they're getting. You have to be open to receiving these things.
What about sleeping and having dreams? And we mentioned just a second ago, before you go to bed, kind of cleanse your mind and think about things. Can your dreams actually be a connection to somebody that's passed?
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between a dream and a visit. So go ahead, Jolene.
A dream is, we all dream. We have crazy dreams. We wake up in the morning, we say, wow, that was some dream, and then we forget it. But when you have a visit from somebody who has passed over, you'll never forget it. You'll remember how old they were, what they said, what they look like. All your senses are involved. You can see them, you can feel them, you can touch them, you can smell them. It's a totally different experience, and it's something you never forget.
And people will say to us, well, I don't understand why my daughter gets visits, but in her dreams, but I don't. Well, some people are more open to it than others. And generally, when you are in the depths of your grief, right after you've lost someone, in the depths of your grief, you are, as much as you would like to have a visit, it doesn't happen because you're too sad, you're too raw. And when you're in that state, the person could materialize right in front of you and it wouldn't be enough. So you will get those visits when you are truly ready for it, not when you think you're ready, when you're
right. That's
truly
the big
ready
difference.
For it.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that when you're most humble, you're most receptive to things. So when something has happened in your life, let's say somebody has passed, you lost a job, whatever it might be, that's when you really get those signals. Do you think that's true?
I do. I think that when your emotions are so raw, sometimes you'll start getting a lot of signs. And a lot of people shut them down because they're not ready. But I do think that's true, yes. I mean, it depends. You can be a very empathetic person all the time, and you just have those emotions. Like if we read somebody, we feel their emotions. We feel it. It's just, it's all about love. Love never dies, okay? You're always connected through love. It doesn't die. Why would it?
I just want to jump in here because I find it fascinating that when you guys do readings, by the way, we're talking to the psychic sisters, Linda and Jolene. You said that you experience that person that's passed on, their emotions and feelings. What is that like? I mean, can you describe something that stands out in your mind?
Well, sometimes we'll feel the way a person passed. Like, see, the way that we get our information is we either see it, hear it, or feel it. And sometimes we'll feel that pain in the chest. Or sometimes we'll, see a scene of how the individual passed and what was their reaction to the passing. So that's how we experience their emotions.
And that's also up to them. That's also up to them what they give us. We don't have any control over that. That's what they give us. Like sometimes if, God forbid somebody has passed in a motor vehicle accident, we could get, okay, it's an accident, and I always, in my head, say to them, don't show it to me, because I don't want to see it. They normally show it to me.
Mm.
And sometimes we're shown a scene like that where the individual, right after the accident, they have stepped outside of themselves and they're looking at it.
Right. We see that a lot.
That is also their emotional state. They're looking at it with, what just happened, or
what just happened? This can't be good.
The way you describe that, it's almost like those scenes, from a movie where they recreate where somebody has passed on and that person is floating above themselves and looking down saying, oh, wow, how did that happen?
It's very similar to that.
It is very similar. We read somebody last night who we said to her, something about you had a near-death experience because you were floating above yourself, looking at yourself. And that is exactly what they showed me. And the lady said, yes, I did. So this is the kind of stuff they show us. They show us this kind of stuff all the time.
Do you think that we all have psychic ability?
Absolutely.
Every single one of us.
Every single one of us has a level of psychic ability, intuition, whatever you want to call it. But most people do not either recognize it or they don't listen to it. Listening to your own intuition is really important because that is your psychic voice talking to you, if you will. When you
and
follow
most people
your
don't
intuition,
trust it.
Right, but when you follow your intuition, generally speaking, you don't get into trouble. It's when you don't follow your intuition that you can say, I should have known better, or I should have listened to what I was thinking.
It's like when you're going to go outside and the weatherman said it's going to be a beautiful day, but something's telling you to bring the umbrella. And you don't bring the umbrella, and you go out for lunch and it's pouring rain. That's kind of what it is. You have to listen to your own gut instinct.
That is a level of psychic ability.
Really?
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Now, not all psychics are mediums. Not all psychics can connect with people who have passed over.
Okay, let's jump on that for a second because I really want to define that, and I've always wondered about it. What's the difference between a psychic and a medium?
Okay.
All mediums are psychic, okay? But not all psychics are mediums. All mediums can connect with spirit, but they can also do the, Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome is coming into your life kind of reading. We can all do that. However, not all psychics can connect with those who have passed over. That's the difference. A medium connects with your loved one who has passed.
Gotcha. Okay, so technically you guys are psychic mediums. You are known as the Psychic Sisters, but really you're psychic mediums.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, I'm going to change gears for a second. I want to talk about astrology and how it controls our lives. We've all heard about, a lot of us have heard about a Mercury retrograde. Typically it happens like 3 times a year for about 3 weeks where things go kind of haywire. What exactly is a Mercury retrograde?
Mercury retrograde is it's defined as Mercury goes backwards. Mercury really doesn't travel backwards, but from our perspective on Earth, it seems like it's going backwards. Okay, Mercury is traditionally in astrology connected to communication. Okay, and when Mercury seems to go backwards, communication goes backwards too. Communication breaks down, and that means all forms of communication, whether it's written, whether it's vocal, it doesn't make a difference. All communication breaks down. This is the time when you don't want to be signing important documents because maybe there's something in the document that you're not really looking at properly. It's not the time to start new businesses because, again, there might be things that you're not seeing clearly because of the lack of communication going on.
So you think it's one of those times that you should double-check emails before you send them, just double-check things?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's the time that you should just take it off from working, because you don't want anything to be misconstrued, even in your personal life. Communication breaks down all over the place. This is the kind of time that perfect time to go sit on the beach.
And don't be around anybody else.
And it's also the absolute perfect time when, because of miscommunication, there will be changes in plans. There will be air flights that get canceled, or you were running a little bit late and you missed your train. Okay, the train came 5 minutes early. There's this level of missed things. There's also a level of in miscommunication that you could be depending on where Mercury is. Mercury is in your chart and how it's aspected in your chart. This could be the time where you're totally out of control with your mouse, and you're going to have arguments all over the place. So it's really a time to stop, look, listen and
check twice,
act accordingly.
Yeah.
So I've heard, Jolene, during a Mercury retrograde that there's also a chance that your past comes back. So maybe you would run into people from your past and it wouldn't normally happen
That
any other
can
time.
happen too.
Yeah?
Yeah, that can happen too. You don't want to mess with Mercury retrograde. Not have a great time.
And you know what? These stars or the planets do not control us.
No.
They are just influences. For instance, I believe the human body is like 78% water, something like that. The moon controls our tides. So it would be very foolish to think that a full moon doesn't affect us. Hence the
it
word
affects everybody.
lunatic.
Right.
So is it true when they say the wackos come out during a full moon?
I think that during a full moon, the pressure of the moon, I mean, again, it controls our tides. That's when we have very high tides, okay? It can exert that kind of pressure on our body. And I don't know what the effects of that would be, but perhaps it is that you go a little bit strange.
Nutty.
So astrology really does play a big part in our lives.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, it does.
Astrology
it absolutely
is a
does.
science. Yes, astrology is a science. This is not, frou-frou. This is a science.
But
to be
astrology,
a good astrologer, you have to really understand it, and it's a difficult thing to understand. You have to have a really good mind to do this.
Astrology also can predict trends. It doesn't usually predict specific events. It predicts trends. So depending on what's going on in the current sky and how that relates to your natal chart, which is what was going on in the sky when you were born, how that relates will predict trends in your life that are going on right now.
So I want to know...
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That it can influence a lot of things that are happening. You two are true sisters, and we've heard of psychics.
She's older.
We've heard of true psychics before, psychics mediums. How did you guys realize that you both had the same kind of ability?
Well, it goes back. I mean, obviously it goes back to, our family. My mother would have precognitive dreams, which is things that would happen. My mother's sister read a regular deck of cards. She really wasn't reading the deck of cards. It was just her focusing tool, but she was very, very psychic. Our grandmother read tea leaves. She was from Ireland. She read tea leaves. So we always felt that it goes back there. And recently through the Ancestry DNA, I have been in contact with a cousin in Ireland. And when we were emailing back and forth, he asked me what I did for a living. And I told him, and he said, that's what I do too.
Wow.
So we do know that that's where it is on my grandmother's side. Linda and I have always known this. I always saw spirit, even as a little kid. I just thought everybody else did. Linda, on the other hand, she tried to shut it down because she wanted to be normal, whatever normal is. And, it's not cool to tell your friend when you're 8 years old, your grandmother's standing behind you, and she wants to tell you such and such, and your friend cries because grandma died. So Linda tried to shut it down. She didn't fully embrace it until she was about 18 years old. I didn't care.
You also have to understand something. I'm 68 years old, so if you go back 60 years, this was not something that people embraced. All right, it was considered you were gypsy or
fortune teller.
Fortune
it's kind of taboo,
or something like that. Yeah, there was a taboo. It wasn't until many years later that times changed. And
Absolutely.
so by the time I was 18, I really fully embraced it because I really couldn't turn it off anymore, and things were starting to change. Having said that, it really didn't start to change until it was being brought into the major arena by other psychics and other mediums. And I credit people like John Edward and Sylvia Brown and George Anderson. Teresa Caputo. These are all people who have brought it to the forefront.
So it's a little more mainstream, more accepted now. And I wonder what that moment was like where you guys both looked at each other, even as kids, and said to each other, like, Linda, did you say to Jolene, hey, did you see that? Did that ever happen?
That really didn't happen too much because, as I said, I'm 6 years older than she is. So by the time that I fully embraced it, she was 12, I was 18. I don't think we really came together as psychics until I was older than that. She was older than that.
Right.
Like when she was in her early 20s. So I think that it really, really, really peaked for me when I was about 28.
Wow. Well, you guys are known around the country for being the sisters that are able to connect with the other side, and you can check them out at thepsychicsisters.us. You guys can do readings on the phone, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We do readings on the phone. We do Skype readings as well. Yeah, we do. You know, people ask us how it works between us. We can honestly tell you we have no idea. It just does.
We tend to see the same things at the same time. We tend to finish each other's sentences, as you probably observe.
Right.
We honestly don't know how it works.
It was like getting two for the price of one when it comes to
5 minutes. Please upgrade your account to remove conference limits.
Well, I wasn't aware of that. We'll edit that out. I don't know if you heard that. It's like getting two for the price of one when it comes to psychics.
Yes,
I guess so.
Right? Well, Linda West, Jolene Paterson, the Psychic Sisters, it was great talking to you. I got to run because I have to sage our studio.
Okay. Thank you for the call. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you being with us today.
And don't forget to open up a window or a door when you sage.
Gotcha.
When you sage, make sure you do that.
Check them out at thepsychicsisters.us. It has been refreshing and a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Broadcasting worldwide to make a difference. This is Positive Impact Radio. Learn more at positiveimpactradio.com.